Alright, so I'm going to make a new video on how to lay out stair stringers. I guess the last one, it was just on a whim when I was building a deck and people were saying it was too shaky, so I'll make a better one. Yeah, don't mind the mess I'm in the middle of insulating my workshop here, so but anyway, we're just going to use my workbench as a reference. So just imagine the top of my workbench is, whether it's the top of the platform of a deck or some kind of platform, wherever is going to be the walking surface where you're going to step down, onto your new stringers. So, all right. So the first thing you want to do is measure from the ground up to the surface. So my workbench looks like it's 37 and a half. I don't know if you can see that. 37 and a half. So that's the first step. All right, so for some quick math time, so we said the top of our deck, let's just say that's our deck, right? So it was 37 and a half to the top down to the ground. So we need to figure out how many steps are going to come down to the ground. So I'm not sure if code is the same everywhere, but code here is the step can't be larger than 8 inches. So what I like to do is just take whatever your height is and divide it by 8, and then see what that number is. Doesn't really matter what the decimal is. Whatever it ends up being, then round up. That's going to be the number of steps. So I forget what it was. It was 4 something. So ends up being 5 steps. So if you take this number divided by 5, you have 7.5, or a 7.5 inch step. So you're going to have 5 steps, 7.5 inches all the way to the top. So next I'll show you how to actually lay that out on your, some people use a 2x10. I like to use a 2x12. It just has more meat. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we have to do, we figured out that our height is 7.5 inches. So we have to figure out how big our tread is going to be. So, the stringer, it's going to basically go like that, right? So we know the distance from here to here is 7.5 inches. So normally the tread, people either use 2x6s or 2 pieces of decking. So they're going to be 5.5 inches a piece. So times 2, that's 11, plus the bull nose on the front is an inch. So that's going to be 12 inches. So we just have to set up our framing square or carpenter square. And all we have to do, you're going to want to get a pair of, these are called stair gauges. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's. I think they're like $5 or $10. So what we're going to want to do is on the long side of the square, set this up to the outside. You're going to want it on the outside of, we said 12 inches. So right there. Tighten that down. So then we're going to do the same thing on the short side, except we're going to put it at our 7.5 inches. And same thing, we're going to want it on the outside. So we have from the corner to the inside on the short side 7.5, and from the corner to the long side 12 inches. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. Make sure these are tight so they don't move. Just like that. So I'll take you over to our blank stringer and we'll lay these out. Okay, so I tried to set this up the best angle I could. This little tripod, it's not the best, but either way. So I didn't have a piece of 2x12, but I ripped this scrap piece of plywood that I had, 11.25 inches, which, you know, that's what a 2x12 will be. So we know that we're going to need, we said, what was it, 5 steps. So what we have to do is you're going to subtract one of those, because the last step you're actually going to step up on to the deck. So your last step isn't going to be flush with the top of your deck. So we have to lay out 4 risers. So we're going to start at the bottom. So start at the bottom as tight to the corner as you can, because this is all going to be scrap. So we're going to start with a riser like that. So then what we have to do is jump to the bottom. This is going to end up being the bottom of the stringer. Well, here, sorry. So where this line is, I like to make just a little mark, just so you know where your height is, which is our 7.5 there. So then now you'll go to the bottom, and you always keep it oriented the same exact way, just so you're running your riser always exactly the same. So then you're going to slide this down, and keeping your stair gauges tight on the back, slide it down until you hit that mark that you made a little bit ago. You're going to make a line all the way across there. So this is what's going to actually sit on the ground. So then we're going to jump back to our top, push this tight until both stair gauges are tight against your 2x12, and then you're going to slide this down until our 12-inch mark here intersects with our line that we made here. So slide this down right there. So you're just going to mark here, and you're going to continue that however many steps that you need. So this will be 1 step. So you'll step up onto your first step, up onto your second. So let me lay the rest out. All right, so once we get to the number of steps that you need and you get to the top, what you're gonna do is you have, let me walk around this side. So if you count these out, you have 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. This will be our 4th. So do 1 more. So this will be the top of our last step. But what we're going to do, just like we did down the bottom, I like to make a little mark. Okay? Go back to the bottom, slide this over, make a mark right there. So that's going to be our stringer. So like I said, 1st step, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. The 5th will be up onto the deck. This is going to be, if you have no risers on the front, depending on code, I don't know what code is where you're from. If you do need, say like a piece of 1x riser, whatever you use on the front, what you're going to have to do is measure off the back whatever that thickness is. So let's say it's 3/4 of an inch. So we'll go, and we'll just use this. 3/4 of an inch. Slide this down. Make a line parallel to the back, and this is the line that you'll actually cut, so that it's the total distance 12 inches minus the thickness of your riser. Now you'll have to do the same thing for your tread as well. So let's say we use a 2x6 for your tread. So you'll want to come down here, slide this back down. So it'll be the same thing. So we'll hold it tight there, and let's just say it's a 2x6, which will be 1.5 inches. You'll make a mark, 1.5 inches. Do the same thing, slide it down. Make a line there. So it's the same thing. You have your 7.5 inches minus your thickness to your tread. So this amount that we're going to cut off here, you'll have to imagine when you put your tread on top, you'll have, you know, two 2x6s that'll put that back. So it'll still be the same 7.5 inches total. Yeah, so let me cut these out, and I'll come back and show you how I like to clean these up. I like to cut to the point on both sides. Now, you know, this is just 3/4 inch plywood, so they may fall out. You know, a 2x12 would be twice the thickness, 1.5 inches. But I like to cut to the point on both sides. Sometimes they fall out, sometimes they don't. But then I like to go back with a Sawzall and cut that flush to cut that out. Some people like to through cut, which would be cut this line all the way through, you know, maybe 1 inch, and then cut this all the way through so it drops out. Personally, I don't like to do that. It just, to me, seems like you're making your stringer weaker for no reason. Teach their own. And other people like to use 2x10. I don't like to do that either, because it just makes the stringer itself that much smaller. You know, you figure a 2x10 is 9.25, and a 2x12 is 11.25, so it's 2 inches. I mean, roughly, you're talking about, it'll be that much smaller. So now you only have that much. You know, I don't know. I try to make these as big as possible. So let me cut this, and we'll hold it back up to my workbench and see how it fits, and we should be good to go. Alright, so like I said, I like to cut these just to the point, okay, on both sides. I don't personally like to through cut, but then from there I'll take a Sawzall and just cut it to the point. These should pop out easy just because it's plywood, but here, let me get these cut. Wasn't much holding that in, just since it's plywood. So this might be a little easier to see that way. So that's our stringer. So we have 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 6. And like I said, the reason this one is 6 is because we're going to have another 1.5 inches, which then will raise this all the way up 1.5 inches. It'll add it back so they're all 7.5. Same thing with our tread. So we have 12, 12, 12. But this one is 11.25. And it's 11.25 because we took off that 3/4 on the back, which when we put our tread all the way starting in the back, then it's going to bump us out the 3/4 here. And then it'll continue all the way. So let's hold this up to the workbench and see how it fits. Okay, so we're back at the workbench. So what we have to do is we're going to assume that the top of our workbench here is the top of the framing, not the decking. So if this were the top of the decking, then you're going to want to measure down from the actual framing. I treated this as the framing itself with no decking on top. Okay, so since we said that the rise on our steps are 7.5 inches, and if we assume that this is our framing, then we're going to come down off the top 7.5 inches. So I already have a mark right here, 7.5 inches. So if we bring our new stair stringer, that's where it'll mount, right there to our 7.5 inches. I'm gonna grab this tripod, and I'm sure somebody will complain that I'm moving it around. Can't make everybody happy. But so we have the top of our stringer. If we back out, it sits flat on the ground. It's not perfectly flat because it's, you know, my garage floor, but I mean, that's pretty damn close. So 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up onto the deck. There we go. And that's how you make a stair stringer. Simple, easy. A 2x12 is a heck of a lot cheaper than buying the pre-made. And the pre-made stringers, you know, they are cut a set height. So, you know, you kind of have to make it work with your situation. But if you learn how to make your own, then you can make them exactly what you need. So yeah, I hope this video helps, and hopefully this is a little better than my last one, since, I don't know, people had a problem with the camera moving around, and I get it. You know, it was just a super quick video, like I said in the beginning. In the middle of when I was making a deck, I didn't really plan to film it, but this was sort of similar situation. I'm in here insulating my workshop, and yeah, I don't know, I saw the little tripod sitting here, and I know I've been meaning to make this video again. So either way, no more rambling. Hopefully this video helps. Thanks for watching, and take it easy. One quick note on these stringers. I was looking through the videos, just editing the video together, and I was looking at my stringer in the video, and it just, something looked wonky. It just didn't look right. Yeah, I kind of rushed through this, and I wasn't really thinking. But one thing I did wrong, and I'm sure somebody will call me out on it. So on the framing square, where I put this at 12 inches. 12 inches isn't where you're going to put the stair gauge. It's actually going to be at 11 inches, because 11, when I added it all up, your 2 pieces of, whether you use decking as your stair tread or 2 2x6s, it's going to be 11 inches, and then you'll have 1 inch for the, I even drew it on here, for the bull nose, but I added that inch to my stringer, which I shouldn't have. So this here, it looks super long, which it is, by accident. So this isn't supposed to be 12 inches. It's supposed to only be 11 and, you know, stop like right here, and then that extra inch, you'll have your bull nose of your tread overhang. So it would overhang here. But as it is now, if you were to have your riser, you know, you would have your 3 1/4, or I'm sorry, your 3/4 inch 1x on the back, right? And then 2 pieces of decking. When you put the 2 pieces of decking with the way I did this, and like I said, this was wrong. The whole video, the concept is right. The only thing that I did wrong was I laid this out at 12 inches instead of 11. But if you were to put your riser and then 2 pieces of decking, it would end flush, and you wouldn't have your inch bullnose. I do know code here in Delaware. You do have to have your inch bullnose. I'm not sure what code is there. If you did want it completely flush, then this video is right. But if you do want the inch bullnose, then you'll set this on your framing square, the stair gauge, to 11, not 12, 11. Everything else was right though. It was just, yeah, when I was looking at it, I was like, why the hell does that look so long? And I went back, and yeah, I was just, had a brain fart. So like I said, this was just a quick video while I was out in the workshop, you know, insulating. So either way, 11 inches, not 12. Sorry about that. All right. Thanks again for watching.